Hello, welcome to the Heart of Strength. This is a show where we dive in and we start to look at strategies and habits and mindsets, right, that can help you get things done and live life to the fullest. I believe that God created us with a heart of strength. And by utilizing our relationship, by building on our relationship with God, we are able to accomplish and be all that we can be. If you don't know me, my name is Delina Watson. We are airing today on the Win-Win Network, as well as some other platforms. But I am a mother of 3 grown daughters. I have a wonderful grandson. I am married, and like you, my life is full, just like yours. We have a lot of activities going on, but I think that there is an area where we all struggle. It's the struggle of procrastination. I don't know about you, but I procrastinate on a lot of things. And so today I want us to look at those struggles that we have. Let me ask you this. Have you ever found yourself where you sit down and you are going to watch one episode of your favorite show? And the next thing you know, you are sitting there watching the second episode, the third, the fourth. You binge watch, right? You start to watch more than one episode at a time. Or maybe you sit down at your desk and think, oh, I think today's the day I'm going to clean out my desk. Now, these are things that might need to be done, and I'm all about downtime. There are times where we need to escape and watch our favorite show. But the key here is, are you doing these things because you are avoiding the things that actually need to be done? If you're nodding right now, trust me, you're not alone. Procrastination is sometimes viewed as being lazy, but it's actually a mental battle. It's a battle between your present self and your future self in what you're trying to accomplish. And the worst part of it, I think, is that it allows us to be, enables us to be stuck. Sometimes we're stressed because we've not completed a task, or we feel guilty. I know when I have sat down and watched an episode and decided to watch a second and a third, and I start to binge watch something, when I'm finished, I feel guilty. I feel like that's been wasted time, right? In this episode, though, I think what we want to really look at is how to stay on track. How do we start to keep from procrastinating? I don't know what you've been putting off, but I do want you to think just for a moment, what is one thing that you've been putting off for a long time? Maybe it's a big project that you want to start. Maybe it is a simple email or a phone call that needs to be made and you keep putting it off. I'll do it tomorrow. It could be a fitness goal. I know earlier this year we talked about goals for the new year, and a lot of us put some of those goals in place. Maybe we've put off that fitness goal that we've wanted to start. I think another area that some of us put off are things that God has laid on our heart. Maybe it's a ministry. Maybe it's starting your own podcast. Maybe it is building a business. Things that God has said, this is the direction He wants you to go. You continue to put that off. Well, no more waiting. Let's jump in and figure out what it is and how we can keep from procrastination. I recently read a book, I guess it was last week. It was a book that was very short. I was able to read it just in one setting. I made notes in it, but it's a very simple book, and it's called How to Finish Everything You Start. It was by Jan Yeager. And in this book was given an acronym to use, and using the word finish. It's a powerful strategy that as I read it, I thought this really simplifies what we need to do to finish what we start. And so we're going to look at each of the acronyms, and then we're going to apply that in what we're trying to accomplish. So first, let's look at the letter F. The letter F is for focus. Focus on one priority task. What is the one thing that you can be doing, a single task? Avoid the pitfalls of multitasking. I think sometimes when we multitask, we feel like we're getting more done. In reality, it's given us incomplete work, isn't it? We're not as efficient. F, focus. Focus on what you're trying to accomplish. I is ignore. Ignore those interruptions, those distractions. I want you to think about your environment when you are starting a task. Think about the environment that you're in and schedule to minimize those interruptions. Now, we all have interruptions, whether you are at the office or at home and you've got children coming in and out, right? We were talking about this at dinner last night with some family that are in town. When someone walks in your office, you're distracted, you're disrupted in what you're trying to accomplish. The important part here is ignore those distractions. When that person walks back out of your office, pick up where you left off. Don't get distracted and put it to the side and then start on another task. Try to finish that task at hand. The other thing that I find that we do a lot of times is we put those distractions on ourselves. We start to think, oh, I need to stop and check my email. Oh, I need to stop and get on social media, right? Ask yourself this, can I not check my email for 30 minutes to an hour so that I can start and finish this task? Start what you finish. F, focus. I, ignore, right? N stands for now. Now is the time, not tomorrow, not later, but now. Emphasize to yourself that immediate action, that action that you need to accomplish. Make that a priority. The word now. F-I-N. And then you have another I, right? Initiate. Initiate and innovate, I guess. Innovate and initiate how to stay on task and keep going. Be proactive in that. I asked on my social media page last week, what are some things that you do, some strategies to finish what you start? And it was interesting because several said, I have to write it down. And we've talked about goal setting and stuff in the past, but they're actually talking about, I need to write down this task. If I write it down, I will start it and then I will finish. Others said that they've set a timer. And so when they set a timer, they say, I'm going to start this and work on it for an hour. So they initiated that innovation of how to complete the task, how to finish. So you want to really look at that and determine those milestones, keep yourself engaged and looking at your progress as you're doing that. F-I-N-I. And then you have S. S is stay the course. Stay the course however tough it gets, right? You want that commitment to the task. It's crucial to be committed. When you're committed, then you see completion, right? That's part of that resilience, perseverance, the things that we've talked about before. F-I-N-I-S, right? Stay the course. And then you have H to finish it up. H is honor. Honor yourself. If procrastination is something that you really struggle with, when you accomplish a task, when you finish what you start, honor yourself with celebration. It could be calling a girlfriend and saying, hey, meet me for coffee. I just was able to finish something that I started. It could be if it's a larger accomplishment that you've been able to finish, maybe it's dinner with your spouse or a friend. Honor yourself. Take the time to celebrate when you've been able to finish. Now, that's the acronym, FINISH. But I also think it's important that we look at two things as we're looking at how to finish. We need to look at hidden time and how are you spending time. So you ask, what is hidden time? Hidden time for me is what I used to think as wasted time. And I'll give you an example. As a lot of you know, I spent a lot of time with our daughter Reagan with all her medical issues, and we spent a lot of time in a waiting room. Instead of sitting down in the waiting room and picking up the magazines that are probably outdated anyway, instead of sitting down and reading a magazine for 30 minutes to an hour while you're waiting your turn, use that time. That's hidden time that you could use to work on the task at hand. Nowadays with technology, we have iPads and our cell phones and laptops that we carry with us everywhere we go. Use that time. Another example would be commuting. Some of you commute by bus, by subway, train. Some of us fly to different areas to go for meetings. What are you doing during that time? Can that be your hidden time to be able to work on finishing what you've started? I will say this again, though. Downtime is important. If you need to use that time on the bus or the subway, the train, what have you, to rest, refocus, redirect, use that time. But if you're going to use it just as wasted time, then start to look at it as a time to utilize to finish what you start. The other thing is recognizing how you're spending your time. I took a course years ago about time management, and one of the suggestions was to make a schedule of everything that you do for the day. Starting with when you wake up in the morning, and every 15, 20, 30 minutes, write down what you did. Just put it in your day timer on your phone, whatever it is. Do that for a period of about 2 weeks because it gives you an opportunity to look at habits, look at areas of maybe specific time of the day where you have some of that hidden time that you can use. Or maybe you have wasted time consistently that you could change to be in productive time. So those are the two examples of your hidden time and your time management. Now, from a biblical perspective, I love always looking at what the Bible tells us about the different things that we are going through in our lives. And I know we've been talking primarily about the task that you're trying to accomplish, but I did touch on when God has called you to do something, that we are obedient and we listen to his direction and we don't procrastinate of those things. And I think that there's a time where we need to look at what God has placed in our hearts. And in James 4, it says, if anyone then knows the good they ought to do, and they don't do it, it is sin. To me, that's saying that if I am not being obedient in doing what God has directed me to do because I'm procrastinating, then that's a sinful area in my life that I need to look at and make some changes accordingly. God places dreams and callings in our hearts, And he does that for a reason. Delaying what God is asking us to do could mean that we're missing out on opportunities. We're missing out on blessings for ourselves, but we're also missing out on blessings for others. I think sometimes what causes us to procrastinate is fear of perfection. I know that was mine, procrastinating on starting our nonprofit. There was a time where I knew God had prompted me to start the nonprofit, and I didn't do it for several years. And finally, that overcoming that fear, I was able to begin that nonprofit. Initially, it was a spiritual battle for me. It was a spiritual battle where I was using the excuses. I was procrastinating. And luckily, as through prayer, for most of us, when we do that, God brought a circle of friends, people into my life that were encouraging, and they helped me not procrastinate any longer. Now, was the nonprofit perfect when we started? Absolutely not. Is it perfect now? Absolutely not. It's a work in progress. It's a time for us to realize, even though we may not be ready, stop procrastinating and move forward with what God has planned for us. It's having to trust, isn't it? Trusting the outcome of what God has for us. I believe it's in Philippians. Let me look here. Yeah, Philippians 1:6. It says, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. When God's put that in your heart, he's going to carry it on to completion. Don't let the procrastination keep you from that. Start now. That will impact others. It will impact you in an area that you cannot even imagine. So let's apply the word finish. We've talked about what each letter stands for. Let's now apply it. When you apply it to the task, that's where you're going to see the completion. The F, remember, focus on the project or the task. So identify what that task is and write it down. This is how you apply the word finish. Focus. What is that focus? What is that task? Then ask yourself, how will you stop yourself from being interrupted? The I, interruptions, right? Ask yourself, how am I going to do that? How am I going to keep from being interrupted? The N, remember that's now, right? Ask yourself, will you promise yourself to stay focused? If you say yes, then you're ready to move on. If you say no, you need to go back and think about what's your focus and look at that and see how you're going to keep yourself from those distractions, right? Will you promise yourself to stay focused on the project at hand? F-I-N. The next I, remember, it was initiate. How will you initiate to finish this project? Jot that down. How will you finish it? How are you going to initiate those? What are those strategies that you're going to use to finish that task at hand? S was, remember, it was stay. Are you going to stay the course? Is this the time that you can do that? If you ask yourself that and you can answer yes, then you're ready. You're ready to start that task. And then finally, H. Go ahead and recognize that now, how are you going to honor yourself when you're ready to start that task? Now, you say, Delina, I don't need to do this. This is a lot for me to have to do on a daily basis for my task. But I think what you will find is that as you start asking yourself these questions it becomes pretty quick. It's habit forming, right? You can mentally start asking yourself these questions before you get started on that task. The first time or two, I would suggest jotting the answers down just so that you can remember and visually see what the task is that you're trying to accomplish. Well, that's what you have, the word finish. I think if we all look at that and really acknowledge how are we going to finish what we start, we will see how simple it really is to finish. Remember, take a look at those things that God's been placed on your heart, the things that you have put to the side, and don't procrastinate any longer. I want you to look at that today. Spend today to be the new beginning of what you're going to accomplish. I have several friends that have started new activities, new businesses for the year. I love checking in with them and hearing their progress. And I think this is one of the areas that they could all utilize. I know for myself, this was a great refresher. Again, the book, How to Finish What You Start, was a great little book that I found on Amazon. And it's an easy read, and I would highly recommend reading it. It goes into goal setting and some other tools that I know that you'll find beneficial for yourself. If you have found that just this high level acronym has been beneficial for you, I'd love to hear a little bit more. As you know, these shows are very high level. They are, I envision them to be ones that you can look at, dive a little deeper on your own. Reach out to me if you want more info on how to do it. I'm here to help. It's Delina at embracingstrengths.com. I would love to hear from you. Tag me on social media. If you want to share the podcast with others, I would appreciate that as well. Until next time, let's accomplish procrastination. Let's be able to show others that we are doing what God's asked us to do, and that we are accomplishing the things that we have identified, and that we're finishing what we start. Until next time, I hope that you have a blessed day today. As always, know that I am praying for you. I spend time in the mornings before I start the show in prayer for those that are going to listen wherever you are. And enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.